Hi Donna, this is a short tutorial on purchase orders and more generally navigating the purchase transactions form. So as you probably know, this is under purchase on the left, then hit purchasing transactions. Just so you know, in case nobody's shown you, whenever you see these blue fields, it means they are searchable. And when we open a form, we open in view mode. View mode is the least destructive mode. You can't accidentally edit or destroy something. That's why we always open in view mode, and all these are searchable so you can find what you need. In case you're wondering, the other modes are add, so say adding a transaction, edit, so changing a transaction, and delete, which is deleting data, although in this case it's cancelling a transaction. The transaction is still there. We don't make things disappear because we want to be able to audit all the transaction numbers, but it is marked as cancelled, which effectively means there is no material value. So if you're creating a purchase order, and there are other ways to create purchase orders, this is the most manual basic way. You're going to add mode, and we're going to pick up a supplier. So if I just hit enter, I can find all suppliers in name order. And as you know, if you're on one of these blue search fields, you could search on, say, Hippie, and it will find all suppliers with the name Hippie in it, which is just one. Transaction type is an order, that's the default on this screen. The order number is generated for you automatically. Reference, you can put in whatever you want or leave it blank. It's just a general field. So some people may put in their initials or their name, say Donna, or maybe they're putting in some other information, such as you know, the day they put the order. Whatever it is, it's up to you to decide. Time doesn't really matter. Transaction code doesn't matter for an order. When we bring in the invoice, that will be the supplier's tax invoice number. Now, we click into this area here, which we call the lines grid. So if you imagine this top section is the header of the transaction, this is the detail, the lines. Many ways of searching for product. You could scan a barcode here. Again, because it's one of those blue fields, you could hit enter and just search. This is showing all of the products available from this supplier. Or you could search on all suppliers if you wanted to pick up something else from inventory. Just keep in mind, if you pick up some random product, it will link that product to this supplier. So we tend not to use that unless we really are sure we know what we're doing. Otherwise, you'll end up with products with all these different suppliers, some of which may not be valid. So let's go back to the original supplier and say pick up this item. And how many are you going to order? 50. OHQ is on hand quantity. OOQ is on order quantity. So how many do we have in stock right now, and how many have we already got on order but haven't received yet? Tax is automatically calculated from the product, cost, price, margin, and so forth. Price you cannot change at this stage. We may change that behavior in the future. However, if you are doing a purchase invoice, you will be able to change the price on this screen. So as you receive goods, if the margin is shrinking, you can bump up the price. So that's basically creating an order, and you'll just keep adding products in. I'm just hitting down arrow and up arrow. I can insert a line by pressing the insert key. If I want to remove a line, I can press Control Delete. We do it Control Delete rather than Delete because it used to be delete, but people would lean on that key and suddenly their whole order would go disappearing very quickly. Any blank lines like this get removed when you save things out, so don't stress too much about removing them. You probably don't need it for purchasing, but if you needed to change the order of the items, you can just set a new line number there. So that's the basics of ordering. Another little cool trick, if you've got suppliers that you may be replenishing, such as say vitamin suppliers, you can right click and go select products from a list. This brings up a list of, just forget about my screen, which is a bit bigger than what this recording is, but you get a list of all the items from this supplier, and you can run down saying I want 2 of them. I'm hitting enter, enter, 6, enter, 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 say 2 of them, and you can't see it, but I'm going to click OK, and that will add those lines into the sale, or into the purchase rather. We can also import from a scanning list. Now, we won't get into it now, but when the PDAs get set up, you'll be able to scan items and bring it in from them. Or you could bring it in from an Excel file. If you happen to have a file of supply codes, you could bring it in that way. Okay, that's creating a purchase order. To send, you will save or apply. Doesn't really matter which, because when you send it, it applies it anyway. But let's just click save so we can do it the long way. It saves out. At this stage, it is just sitting there. Hasn't been sent, hasn't been added into the inventory or anything. It's just sitting there effectively as a draft. If I wanted to go back and find it, I could go view or edit. Let's say view. Again, all these fields are searchable. So if I searched on, say, date and pressed enter, now this is going in descending order, I will see everything in descending order. It'll also put the open items at the top so you can find them quicker. Don't worry about this other order, it's just again a test I did the other day. If I selected, say, hippie first, and then looked at the transactions, I'll only see transactions from this particular supplier. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you know you were just doing something a minute ago, you probably don't need to select supplier. You can go straight into date, or you can search by order number or reference or any of these other fields. There is another screen to do with purchase orders, which is under purchase and then orders. And you'll also see here it's showing open orders between these dates, and we can double click on them to open them up. So it's two ways of finding an order in the system. If I want to change it, while I'm in edit mode, I can go and say remove that line, and maybe that was a mistake, I really wanted 5, and I can save it. To send, a couple of ways. You can press print. Now this is not going to fit on this window that I'm recording, but I'll manipulate it so you can see. We've got a purchase order, which unfortunately I am not going to be able to show you the buttons, but imagine in the top left corner you've got a print button, a PDF button, and an email button. You can click the email button, and that is exactly the same as clicking send here. Except the email button will open up Outlook in a new window. This will, if we click yes, it will apply the order and send it directly if we've set up the information within Univex to send orders. I don't think we've done that at Wild, so if you click send and it opens up Outlook, that's cool. We can do the fancy thing later. The fancy thing is we set up a template email, dear, and then insert supplier name. Please find attached an order to be delivered to Paradise Point or whatever you want. Again, we'll set that up later if we start getting into doing lots of orders and you want to streamline operations as much as possible. Let's say that the order has been sent. I'm going to just pretend and apply it now. And now we want to receive it. If the supplier has given you a piece of paper with the order number on it, you could search on that, or because I don't have it in front of me, I'm just going to find it by searching. And that was the order that we applied just before. The order is done. It's applied. Applied means it's posted to the ledger. It's locked the transaction from editing. If we want to receive stock as an invoice, we can click edit, drop that order down and click invoice. Just warns us, are we sure we want to do this? Yes. What this does is duplicates that order as an invoice. So the original order is still there, untouched. This is just a copy. And the reason we do that is so you've got a bit of a paper trail. So down the line you may ask, why didn't we receive that good? Or maybe something's on back order. That's okay. We've got the original order still there. You'll notice that the columns have changed slightly. Ord is ordered, how many we ordered. Invoiced is how many the supplier charged us for, which could be maybe a bit less if they couldn't supply everything. And supplied is how many they actually delivered. Typically it's going to be the same as what they invoiced, but maybe they made a mistake or they're giving you a freebie. You can change cost, change the price, like I mentioned earlier. If you need to add freight, just add a new line. Change from products to service. So products are things you put on the shelf and sell. Service is, as you can imagine, things you do, such as freight. There could be other services in the future. We know places like kitchenware and garden centers, they have knife sharpening or service for gift wrapping. Um, Freight, maybe it's $5. This is all excluding GST. If on the odd chance you get a supplier who has inclusive values, you can tick this little box in the corner and it will convert it to inclusive, or we can go back to X. Obviously there's going to be little rounding issues, so best to get this right the first time and the system will remember it for this supplier for next time. Not $9.45, $9.45. And when we apply it, here's what happens. It takes the amount supplied and puts that into inventory as on-hand stock. It takes the amount ordered and takes that off on ordered quantity. So if we open up the product, just have a quick look at what this is. What you'll see is that on order quantity is 5, on hand 0. When we apply this, it will take 5 off on order, so that will go down to 0, and on hand will go up by 5 because that's how many we received. If you don't get sent something and you want to tell the system there's none on order, do this. So what this will do is take the 2 off on order quantity but put nothing in stock, and this helps keep the system clean of any sort of anomalies. Really important when you start doing automated orders, because when we calculate how many we have in stock, we also count how many we have on order. We don't want to keep ordering more and more and more if it's taking a while to deliver. So just make sure you do that, and that's pretty much it. You hit apply. Oh, we forgot the supplier's invoice number. Put it in there, and that posts it to the ledger. Down the line, if you start using Univex for accounting, you'll see it's updated the balance sheet and profit and loss accordingly. We can open up shelf labels, and that's a whole other issue which you probably don't need to worry about right now. So that's the basics of ordering and invoicing. If you also wrote, how do we see if an invoice has already been entered from an order point of view? So you can, like I said, just search on it. We'll go back to BitHippie. You'll notice that that order is now marked as sent/invoiced. Before it just said sent, but what it's done is, because we've duplicated or converted it to an invoice, and the reference here points back to the order number or the order transaction code, Univex has figured out, no, we've received that item, or that order rather. Now if I switch back to that purchase order screen and just do a bit of a refresh, it's disappeared because I'm hiding things that have been sent. I'm only showing open orders. If I untick that, I won't see any. If I tick that, I can see all the orders I have sent. So you can play around with this screen, see how it works for you. One or couple more things. We have a purchase. If I go to purchasing, reports, orders not invoiced, and I think I've mentioned this in an email last week, you can view all of the orders, all the products on order that have not yet arrived, and you can do some other things like just list transactions instead of each individual product. So please have a go at that, play around with it, could be useful. There's another report. That's about it. I think this will give you a really good head start on purchasing. There's obviously a lot more, like when you want to do a credit, like let's say that invoice, you want to send something back to the supplier. It's just another progression along this box. So we go from invoice to a goods returned credit, and maybe we just remove the things we don't want and we're going to send off that. So this will take one item out of inventory. If we have the supplier's credit number, we can put that in there. You can do a credit request as well. Um, Probably not something I'm hoping you don't have too many of. A credit request, which is here, is essentially like a quote. It doesn't really have any material value, but sometimes suppliers need to they need you to produce a bit of paperwork saying we want credit for this. So you could do a credit request, and then once the credit actually gets delivered or arrived, you'll create a goods return credit to actually do the accounting side of it. Uh, that's about it. Have fun, Donna.